Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you are watching this today, it is my birthday. So I think one of the best gifts I can get is just your continued support. So if you haven't subscribed as yet, please subscribe and comment down below, what you think of this video. It would mean so much to me. Today I'm telling you my testimony, my journey, and I just hope it's a blessing to you. And there's also another very important announcement, a very special announcement in the middle of this video. So keep watching to hear what exciting news that I have to share with you. So I want to start off by firstly admitting that I know I'm not perfect. By no means am I perfect. By no means have I figured it all out. Have I learned how to fully navigate life without failure, without falling, without sinning, without, backsliding in some way, form, or shape. I'm not perfect. And I am very proud of where I'm at right now. And I'm very proud of where I've come from. But I'm still on this journey. I'm still trying. I'm still struggling. I'm still striving. And I don't want this video to seem like, like I've been through whatever, but now I'm like where I need to be kind of situation, because I'm not. There's still so much that I have to work on in me. There's so much that God has to work on in me. And, this is just giving God kind of just, props for where he's taking me from. So let's get into it. So, for those of you who know me or you've seen videos where I've talked about it, I grew up in Jamaica, and I will say a huge part of my story has to do with insecurities and lack of self-love. Like, those were my main struggles throughout, like, childhood, my teenage years, and somewhat into my adult years. I knew God, I knew of God. I grew up in a very Christian household. We didn't necessarily go to church, but we had that foundation, and that was very important for me and my mom and my dad. And while I didn't have a personal relationship with God, I knew who he was, and I knew that, we identified as Christian. It wasn't until I was around 8 or so that my family and I started really like going to church, that we accepted, Christ as our personal savior type of situation. And, I was still very young at that point, so I didn't really understand a lot in regards to Christianity and spirituality and my relationship with God. But that's where I started growing it. That's when I started going to church, reading my Bible, and getting excited to know about this God. And that's also around the time that I got baptized for the first time. So the funny thing is, even though I was still like very young, it was at that age that I started experiencing one of like the biggest struggles that I have kind of gone through. And that is like, I just had this need for male attention. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that, I didn't really grow up with my dad. He wasn't a constant figure in my life. And so there was that hole, there was that missing piece. And so I started searching for that love and affirmation and just attention, I guess, from guys. And mind you, I was still in like primary school, still not even in my teens yet. So that just meant having like, guy friends and whatever. And that was all good. And so, fast forward a little bit to high school. High school is when everything gets messy. We all know this. And, my relationship with God is growing now. Like, I'm getting a bit older. I'm understanding a bit more. And I'm trying. But I'm still struggling with this desire for male attention. I'm still struggling because, I want that attention. I want to feel loved. And, the biggest thing for me was I misunderstood male attention for love, which is not the same thing. Trust me. And so, I think I put myself in a lot of situations, and I allowed myself to be in very harmful and negative relationships. Because, again, there was just this desire within me, and I didn't know how else to cope or fulfill it, right? And so throughout high school, it was at that time I really started struggling with the fact that, my dad wasn't constantly in my life. And high school was very difficult for me. And, I wanted to be this godly person. I wanted to serve God. But I also wanted, to be cool. I wanted to be liked by everyone. I wanted to be that girl that everyone wanted to be. And I wasn't. Still am not, but it's okay. And I struggled through that. And I remember, like, having these friends, and they always thought the best of me and always encouraged me, but it's like there was just still something missing. And I remember, my best friend at the time, he was my rock, he was my everything. And he was also Christian, and we went to church together and everything, and he built my faith up so much. And I didn't realize how much I was relying on him. Even though we were the same age, he became like a father figure to me, which is it's weird, I know, but that was a relationship we had. Like, he knew me like the back of his hand. And so, throughout my second and my third year of high school, when our relationship really like solidified, that's when I found my footing a little bit better. And I was getting that attention from him, so I was satisfied in some way, right? And, he encouraged me to be a better Christian. He encouraged me to be a better person all around. And it helped me to grow. It helped me to develop. And, church wasn't perfect. That's another thing, too. That was a huge part of my experiences, especially, like, once I hit high school. Again, by no means am I perfect. I know I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes. And, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, right? But I got a lot of negativity from church people, from older church people. That kind of just put me down and thought, I wasn't going to amount to anything, really. And that discouraged me a lot as well. And again, remember, like, I'm just getting into this faith. I'm just getting into the practice of church. And so hearing, like, negativity from, like, leaders and people who are supposed to be building me up, it really discouraged me as well. And I wasn't at the place in my Christianity, or my maturity wasn't at that level where I could be like, I'm not going to church for people. I'm not going to church because of anybody but for God. Like, I was new in the faith, so I looked up to these people to some extent, and, they really affected how I viewed myself, how I viewed God, and how I viewed the church. And so, after my third year of high school in Jamaica is when I moved to Canada. And that was a whole transition. That is when, stuff really got real. And I had to find my footing for myself. It was a huge transition. I lost my best friend during that transition. He's still alive. But we just lost the relationship that we had. And remember, I told you previously that that relationship was my rock. It was my foundation. It was, everything to me. And so when that kind of just got pulled from under my feet, I lost it all. I suddenly didn't know who I was. I suddenly felt just lost and exhausted and just tired. And to make matters worse, my relationship with God was like, I was trying to grow it, but at the same time, we didn't find a church right away. Like, I couldn't find anyone to connect with. I wasn't making friends. I was struggling to make friends and connect with people at school. And I was adapting to this whole new lifestyle, this whole new place, and it was a struggle. So there's just all these things coming at me. And, in the midst of that, I was just like, God, where are you? Because I was frustrated. I was angry. I was wondering, like, you brought me here. You brought me to Canada. And it's like you brought me here and you left me, and then you just, like, disappeared. And, throughout my high school years, I struggled a lot with friendships. I couldn't make good friends. And, now I know that that was God's way of kind of getting me to rely more on Him rather than on people. But it was difficult, and especially because I couldn't find a church to settle down, and it was just like super hard. I didn't have friends really, and I just couldn't connect with the people here, like the people that I went to school with. I couldn't really build relationships with them. And so throughout high school, I kind of just floated around. I made a few friends, but it wasn't as deep as other relationships that I saw. I did well in school. I mapped out my future. I just tried to work on my relationship with God. You know, it was during this time that I actually decided to get rebaptized when I was in high school, because, you know, I was getting to the point of realizing that, you know, I'm nothing without God, and everything that happened in my life, that has happened in my life, it is because of Him. You know, He's brought me here, He's worked through me, He's continuing to work on me. And I just felt this desire to get rebaptized. And I remember I was at church. I wasn't even planning on getting baptized. So I didn't have extra clothes or anything. And, you know, I was just thinking of all the times that, you know, I neglected God, or I trusted in people more than I trusted in Him, or I trusted in myself more than I trusted in Him. Or, you know, this thing again with me, with male attention and needing male attention for validation and to feel good about myself. And I was just like, God, like, why do I need all of that when I have You? And I remember just like getting up and saying, you know what, I want to get baptized, I want to get baptized today. And I didn't have clothes. I didn't have any extra clothes or anything like that. But I was determined. And, you know, they gave me a robe, and, you know, I got baptized that day. And it was refreshing. It felt like a whole new start once more. And I was just like, God, you know what, this is me and You now. And it was perfect because, you know, after that, shortly I went to university. And, you know, university is where me and God really connected. When I tell you that I've never been so stressed out as I was during university in my entire life, I've never felt that kind of stress before. And, you know, it got to the point where, like, you know, I remember going to my doctor and I'm just like, hey, like, these are the things that I'm experiencing. Headaches, like, parts of my body's just going numb. Like, I can't eat, I can't sleep. Like, I'm going to school full time. I'm doing my internship. I'm working 2-3 jobs sometimes. And my body just can't keep up. And I remember he was just like, you have to slow down. If you don't slow down, your body's going to give out on you and you're going to end up in the hospital. And, you know, he was so afraid that I was either going to have a heart attack or a stroke or something, just because for my age, my stress levels were just way too high. And, you know, I was just like, all right, God, I can't deal with this. Take it. And I remember, like, just going through university again, like, I struggled so much to make relationships, but I think during that time I learned to pray. When I tell you, because I didn't have nobody to talk to, I learned to pray, guys. And it built me up. It built my relationship with God. I mean, I always had my family, do not get me wrong. My mama and my sisters were always there for me. They were always my backbone and supported me throughout everything. But there are times when you're at school alone, or you're home alone staying up doing an assignment, and it's just you and God, and that's all you have. And it was during that time that I'm just like, God, like, I know that You're real, because I feel You, because I experience You. He showed up for me in ways, guys, that I can't. I remember going on the bus and not having, like, bus fare. And, like, the seat that I sat on had just the amount of money that I needed, right? Or, like, going to class and forgetting that there was a test, but somehow knowing everything that was on the test as if I studied. You know, like, the fact that I graduated alone is just such a huge testimony for me, because when I tell you, it was not an easy 4 years. There were classes that I didn't do very well, and there's classes that I failed. There's times that, like, I tried, but again, I was working, I was going to school, I was doing internships, I was very active in church, and it was a lot. It's a lot for anybody, but it was a lot. And again, you know, at this point, I found my forever church, and it's not perfect. I still got a lot of negativity and a lot of hate from a lot of older people. But at this point, I was solidified in my relationship, in my stance, to the point where I was just like, if I believe what I'm doing is good, if God has told me to do this, I don't care much about you. And that was kind of my mentality. And it was at this point that I think, because I had grown in my relationship with God, God was starting to put more people in my life, you know, because He knew there wouldn't be competition. And that's when I met my best friend. That's when I started gaining friends and starting having meaningful relationships. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I still struggle. I still struggle with this need for male attention. I still struggle with, you know, feeling alone, feeling sad, just wanting to overwork myself, not knowing how to pace myself. I still struggle with all those things. I still regret a lot of things in my life. But I'm so thankful for where I'm at now. You know, today, well, when you guys see this, I'll be turning 23, and it's so crazy because 13-year-old Brittany seems like just yesterday, but I also still can't believe I've been on this earth for 23 years. And I know that's not a long time, but you know, God has just brought me through so much. He has paved a way. Like, you know, there's many things that I don't say because, again, it's not just my story, it's my whole family story. We're very close and we go through everything together. And I don't want to give away a lot because, again, it's our story and not just mine. But when I tell you guys that God has been there for me and that He has been within my life and that He has shown up and shown out so many times, it's impossible for me to not give my life back to Him. And you know, again, I finished university. I'm working a job that I love, and I'm happy. You know, I have good friends, and I'm still single, but you know what, God knows that right now is not the time. But I'm happy and I'm blessed, and I just thank God for all His blessings upon me. And that's why I keep doing these things, and I keep doing videos to encourage and support others, because you know, God has been there and He's always provided people to encourage and support me. So thank you. Okay, so my huge announcement today is that I am launching my business, my brand, today, February 21st, and it is called In the In-Between. And it is a support and life coaching business that I will be offering for young women, primarily between the ages of 13 to 21. It is called In the In-Between. Hopefully you can see it, In the In-Between. And I will have all the information linked down below. My website, my Instagram, my Facebook, absolutely everything. I hope that you're able to join me on this journey. I'm very excited for where it will take me, and just stay tuned for all the amazing things that are in store. Continue to pray for me and lift me up. And just thank you so much for your support so far. And I'm very excited for what is to come. So the website will be linked down below. Just be sure to head over there, check out my blog, subscribe to my email list, and just stay tuned for the great things that are about to happen. Alright, so again, you guys just saw my announcement. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I'm going to close out reminding you that you are beautiful, you are loved, you're enough, and I will see you next week for my next video.